Do you want to do it, or do you want me to?
You go ahead.
Dave?
If Carmela has some
Well,
comments,
welcome
fit her in,
everybody. It is great trouble that some of you may have had this time as we were changing over systems, but it's good to have you. And we just wanted to do some level setting. As per usual, we wanted to go over our community norms and values. So I'm just going to put those up on the screen and give everybody a minute to read them through and just check to make sure that that still resonates with everybody. And if anyone wants to amend or make suggestions for changes, let us know. I'll give you a minute to do this page and then I'll switch over. Okay, and then page number 2.
Mary Ruth, is there any way it could be a little bit bigger?
Yeah, possibly. Let me see. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to do this. Yeah. Does that look right? Better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay. So again, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. And I think now that we have done that, I'm just going to check this agenda again. Just wanted to orient everybody to what we're doing today. Dave is going to start us with a brief update on what the executive team has been up to. And then Evan from the Berkeley Food Network is going to be giving a community spotlight, which we're super excited about. And then we're going to go into our breakout rooms. And from there, we're going to come back, do the breakout room reports, do some updates, and wrap up. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dave.
Great. Thank you, Mary Ruth. So in terms of the executive team, we have one, first of all, and that's exciting. And they're a great group of folks that have already met twice. We met last week and we met again this week. And we intend to meet twice a month on weeks that don't correspond with the monthly working group meeting. So some of them will be doing 3 meetings a month. And we talked about a lot. The agendas were full and we had great conversations, but just a couple highlights. One is around meeting structure. We've talked about maybe not all the time having smaller breakouts, but maybe having everybody together and focus on 1 or 2 work groups, but have everybody involved in the discussion. So we intend to try that out for the next monthly meeting. There's so much overlap and we need to make sure that we're coordinated. So we'll give that a try next month. We also went over the partnership agreement. It was basically a first conversation, but we would like to have something formal that denotes a 2-way kind of partnership for organizations that want to be part of All In Eats and what kind of support they can expect in return for their commitment. We're not looking to take over anyone's identity. Organizations will maintain their identity, but we do want to expand the role of partners in this whole process. Talked about food recovery, had a great conversation about that. And we also talked about food hubs. And Claudia Albano from Supervisor Miley's office brought up a good point, because we are looking to do food hubs all over the county, is to try to coordinate it with our neighborhood strategy to end poverty and to have an equitable COVID recovery. We have neighborhoods from West Oakland to East Oakland, Fruitvale, Ashland and Cherylette in the unincorporated area, as well as South Hayward, and there's even an area out in Livermore that we're working with. So we want to make sure that we're strategic in what we do to help with economic recovery for folks and communities that need that sort of support. So those are the kind of conversations we've had. And if you're interested in being a part of those meetings, they're open. They're not at all closed. So other folks can participate in those conversations. Let Mary Ruth know if you are interested.
Yeah. We will also be publishing the meeting dates and information on the website. I think we're going to find a way to make that easily accessible, maybe have a calendar at some point, but for now it'll just be in a blog post probably till we get that figured out. So yes, thank you, Dave. Was that everything?
Yep.
Okay. Then each of these working group meetings we like to have somebody from within the community who is, you're all doing amazing work. And so we want to highlight what the innovations and the new ways that people are approaching food work within Alameda County. And so this month we have asked Evan of the Berkeley Food Network to join us and share a little bit about what they've been doing recently and how they see themselves fitting into the broader picture. And so with that, I will hand it to you, Evan. I think you said you had slides, right?
Yeah, I guess some slides. Is it cool if I share?
Yes,
Okay.
I think so. Ed, do you have
It
permission?
said disabled participant screen sharing. No worries.
Edward, can you give him permission?
Try that again.
You are
Ebony.
now co-host.
All right. That looks like it's working. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, it looks good.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Evan. I'm the Research and Advocacy Manager at Berkeley Food Network. I really appreciate this opportunity to share a little bit about what we're up to. Really just going to treat this as like an update on some projects and specific ideas we're excited about. I should also note, interestingly, these are actually my last 2 weeks at BFN. So I'm going to start a PhD in human geography to study similar topics in food and land justice. So I hope to continue to be a part of collective conversations like this, but we're currently hiring for my role. So at future meetings, you will see a new face. So yeah, just a quick overview of BFN for those who aren't as familiar. Through the pandemic, we've been serving about 5,000 people a week or 20,000 a month across Berkeley and Albany. This number tripled in the past year. We have an on-site client choice pantry, which is about 20% of our clients, as well as 58 distribution sites that serve 80% of our clients. Many of them are doing pre-packed bags right now because of the pandemic, but our goal would be for every distribution to be client choice, which just means it's market style. So people choose to take exactly what they want. We recover about 44,000 pounds of food a month and turn that into 3,200 prepared meals a month. That's just like a high level overview. So into some specific things, a slice of our work that we've been building out since January and hope to spend a lot of effort on going forward is advocacy. So we've broken out our issue priorities into these two simplified buckets under food systems, quality and choice and food assistance, regenerative agriculture, or some people call it ecological farming, food and land justice, food waste, and food as medicine. And then in socioeconomic systems, looking at housing, labor power, and racial justice. So we really want to be a part of what seems to be a growing chorus of food assistance, anti-hunger orgs talking about the root causes of hunger, not just looking at how to alleviate hunger or increase food access, but what are the actual structural injustices driving hunger in the first place. Unsurprisingly, they're the same injustices driving every other form of inequality: economic injustice, racial social discrimination, rent burden, political power imbalances, healthcare costs, underfunded public education, racial inequality, and on and on. These are often, we find, tackled in silos, and the anti-hunger industry as a whole generally hasn't tied these dots together, certainly not at state and federal level. So for most of these, we envision simply amplifying and sharing the amazing work that so many other organizations and activists are already doing. But then specifically, we hope to really speak out about those food-specific issues that we think we're able to operationalize at BFN. So quality and choice in food assistance. Can we source healthier, fresher food? And can we center choice at all of our sites? This involves turning to regenerative agriculture to find the best food for land and people. Regenerative ag ties into food and land justice. Who controls land, production, distribution, retail? Who's consuming what? Who holds the power? Who gets to decide? We have a food recovery manager working on food waste. There are tons of opportunities there. And finally, we're trying to figure out how our warehouse could be a food as medicine site. We're inspired by the Dig Deep Food Hub. And we want to advocate for the place of food in healthcare. So to operationalize specifically the food and land advocacy, we spent a lot of time this spring fleshing out what we're calling like a farm investment program. The goal being to specifically raise funds to invest in small-scale farms that struggle accessing markets, at least organic, ideally regenerative, ecological, and prioritizing BIPOC farmers, other historically marginalized growers. And then we hope to advocate for policies and initiatives that boost this kind of work in production at all scales. On the right is a photo of ALBA, the Agriculture and Land-Based Training Association down in Salinas. They provide land and a training program for farm workers turned farmers. They're our biggest farm partner right now, but we're also in touch with other farmers through CAF, the Community Alliance with Family Farmers. They do organizing, education, policy advocacy, and farm to market work around the state with small farmers specializing in ecological farming. So we want to grow these partnerships to try to scale our farm investment work. And then just a few other things I wanted to say. First, just that we really believe in the necessity of throwing our weight behind rural land advocacy and reform outside of and well beyond Alameda County. If we want, every meal on every plate in Alameda County to be super fresh, healthy food grown in a socially equitable way that's good for the planet. So really fighting against industrial ag, the ag lobby, and the legacy of racial injustice in farmland. There tends to be an urban bias in food system conversations, and the urban food space is increasingly powerful, particularly with the popularity of urban ag. So redirecting some of that political groundswell toward rural space could be really transformational. And in working with small farmers, we're finding that their biggest hurdle, unsurprisingly, is access to markets, which is often the symptom of what we know, right? Sociopolitical disconnection caused by many factors, whether it's racial, class-based, historical, spatial, social, urban, rural divides, having trouble with economies of scale, being outcompeted by industrial growers, and so on. And so because of this, we're finding that, sometimes it's helpful to go directly to the farmer. It's also really helpful to work with intermediaries who aggregate and distribute small farm produce. We think Yei Organics is a good example of this. It's run by Cecilia Sengi. This is born out of the Sister Farms project with Slow Food to connect BIPOC farmers with markets and put more money directly in their pockets, so they're not, so they're making more on the dollar for produce. So really thinking that finding these connections will be key in sourcing efforts. So finally, I think it's sort of covered, but just to tie together, how does this fit into the circular food economy? So similar to, we're not the same scale, but similar to the Dig Deep Food Hub, working on strengthening regional farms, facilitating farm to market access. We're a big aggregator and then distributor of a ton of food. We have the on-site pantry, but most of it does go out to community sites with the mobile client choice pantries. We recover a ton of food through a big network of food recovery partners. We haven't done this yet. We love the idea of more collaborative collective purchasing, potentially serving as a transitional employment and food as medicine site. And then just one other high level final thought on making all the circular food economy work happen. Maybe folks have talked about this, but just wanted to emphasize an idea that, each of these 5 buckets is huge at a county level with 1.3 million people. So there's so much work to change any of these really entrenched systems, and it seems like it might be useful to have at the county level a coordinator full-time for each of these buckets, or even just one person with the full-time responsibility of really formalizing and facilitating initiatives, feeling like many of us are at our own organizations with a lot on our plate. It can be hard to fit in some of the systems work in between these monthly meetings and move things forward. So anyway, that's just an idea. And I know it's a big lift, but wanted to throw that out there. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. Thank you to everyone here for all your work. I'll be sad to be leaving, but would love to follow up with anyone interested in discussing any of this, anything BFN's doing, or at the very least put you in touch with the person taking over my role in the next few weeks. So yeah, thank you. And there might be a few minutes for discussion, Mary Ruth.
Yeah. Happy to have people field questions or comments, praise. I myself would just like to say I love Berkeley Food Network's model, and we're really excited to be working with them and thinking about new ways that we can combine efforts and expand what we're both doing in a really synergistic way. So thank you, Evan.
Thank you. Should I stop sharing, or would it be helpful to leave?
Sure. Yeah. Does anybody have any comments, thoughts, questions?
I just want to say Thank you to Evan, and good luck with the doctoral program. But Berkeley Food Network's doing fantastic work. So thank you for presenting that today.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. We do hope you'll stick around and join us for some meetings now and then.
So,
Yeah.
Evan, this is Kimberly Alvari. I'm actually work at Washington Hospital. This is my first meeting. So you're getting ready to go and I'm coming in, trying to figure everything out. But when you talk about food as medicine, are you talking about medically tailored meals and or programs for complex health issues, or what are you, what are like a prescription food box, produce box? What particularly is that related to?
Meredith, I can definitely describe it though. I feel like because the county has been doing that more, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. So within our model, we are right now primarily looking at food prescriptions in the form of raw produce that is also accompanied with recipes and then behavioral medicine group visits. So helping people develop more healthy habits and learn how to use the produce in their daily lives. But we are moving more towards something like a medically supportive meal, which is not quite as stringent as a medically tailored meal. And right now we're working with our local food vendors who have been providing food aid to the community during this pandemic times. We've developed some nutrition standards as All In Eats, and they have been learning how to apply those nutrition standards to their culturally creative meals. And over time, we're going to be preparing them as individual small food vendors to provide the medically supportive meals over time that will also be prescribed and hopefully be paid for using Medi-Cal dollars. But Hillary Bass, who is overseeing most of this work through the Deputy Sheriff's Activities League and Dig Deep Farms, would probably have more to say on that topic.
Of course, coming from a hospital, I'm super interested, just as a little background. In the last couple of years, we had been doing work with LEAF. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the LEAF program. And so I was working there. We were working on doing things that almost sound like what you're doing, like working at cooking demonstrations, and they were actually going to build onto their property. They were looking at some projects that they were developing to be able to incorporate maybe some space on there where some of the dietitians from Washington could go out. We do community programs here, and a lot of times they do focus on vegetables, but we're going to kind of take it into the community. So of course, everything you're saying right now is very interesting to me. And I don't know if Hillary, if you wanted to add something.
I just actually wanted to say, I'm not sure, my memory sucks and I can't see your face, but I don't know if we met. Maybe over a year ago, Larissa Estes and Dr. Chen and I
Yes, we have met. Yes. Yes, I don't know what happened to that.
Well,
it's here?
We weren't really where we are today, which is the
Okay.
good news is that we're here, you're here, and we have, I think, the potential to do more of what we were starting to tease ourselves about what was possible. So I think this is a perfect time to revisit the conversation we had whenever that was.
Thank you. So I'm so excited about being with this group now.
Yes,
because there's a lot of things that kind of, I know Patty's on too, so I've had conversations with Patty about just, repurposing some of our food and recovering it. So yeah, this is the right group for me.
Great. Glad you're here.
Sorry, I just kind of barged in, but I'm finding everybody that I've kind of touched base with, but didn't bring it, just a few more steps to bring things to fruition.
The right place.
So very exciting. Thank you.
Great to have you, and thank you for coming. Thank you for barging in. We like people who barge in.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments from people?
I was just gonna say, Evan, in your presentation, I thought it was really awesome that you guys are like thinking about, like the bigger picture too of like why this is all happening, like the advocacy and stuff, and like racial inequities and like different kinds of things. I think that's so key and important to like getting to the root of like how we can help the community.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, definitely. You know, like all this has been generations of work done on all of these issues, and so you know, we're just echoing what's been said already, and I think trying to tie some of the dots together when you know there's so much of the energy and effort is getting food to food insecure folks every single day, and so there's not a lot of time to work on systems. But to the extent that we can, you know, we want to be a voice. So thanks anyway for your support.
One
Okay.
thing, this is Dave Brown with Supervisor Chan's office. One thing I do want to mention, I mean, we have been meeting with and talking with Berkeley Food Network to figure out ways that we can support each other and build upon this. And as you can see from what Evan talked about, the values that they have and the work they want to do is completely in line with what All In Eats was, you know, founded to do. And we're working with other organizations, like there's, you know, Tri-City Volunteers out of the Tri-Cities area, Fremont, Union City, and Newark. And we're trying to find ways for the county and the resources that we have can actually help support various organizations. And I think that that's, we are very blessed by being connected to the county. So we do have access to resources that not everybody has access to. We want to share those resources and support and amplify the work that's going on. So we look forward to continuing those conversations.
This is Kimberly Alvari again. I'll just add that I'm a recent new member to the Tri-City Food Bank here in Fremont, so I'm the new food bank board member. So I've been working with Taylor there and actually have another site visit with him next week. So that sounds like another connection or a dot that's being connected for me here as well.
Very cool. Yeah, we're trying to figure out with Taylor how we can get a food hub out in that area. So stay tuned. Okay, I will bring up my screen, but I'm open to any other comments or questions people might have before we move on. Okay. So this is the part of the meeting where I just do a little bit of framing of our work again. For those who are new, of which some of you are, which is very great. And then also maybe for those of you who have yet to see the big song and dance that Hillary and I do that takes 45 minutes. We're not going to do that today, but I did want to just sort of frame what we do here in terms of the bigger picture. And Evan actually has touched on a ton of it. But for us, we do see All In Eats as being this full circle economy that involves, you know, farming and food vendors and food recovery and composting and providing living wage jobs for people and incubating small food businesses and the whole works. Policy, equity, all of these things. And so what we're trying to do with this group is to help each other see ourselves in all working together within the same circular food economy. And by situating ourselves in that space together, hopefully find ways that we can work better together to do our work, each of our work better and more efficiently, and to serve the people that we're trying to serve better. So within our breakout groups, which is what we're going to do shortly, what we're trying to do is celebrate, support, and see one another within this circular food economy. So we celebrate things like all of the cool stuff that Evan and Berkeley Food Network is doing. And so we're talking about, you know, new developments that we're all working on. We talk about some of the challenges that we are facing, and find ways to support one another if we can. And then we also, like I said, reconnect ourselves back to the bigger picture of the full circle rather than being siloed in one of the 5 buckets that we've kind of talked about that you sort of see in that little picture up there. So that's how we see the purpose of these breakout rooms, and hopefully that makes sense to everybody, but you have very capable facilitators who will be working within each group to facilitate the conversations. And then once we all come back together, we talk about, we just give a brief highlight of what each group was talking about. And then as Dave said, we're going to be playing with some different formats for this in future meetings to see if there's other ways that we can better highlight the things that are happening in each of the different buckets so that we don't get siloed even within this group, but that's to come. Okay, so with that, I think Edward is going to do his magic and send everybody into their breakout rooms, and we will meet back here in about 40 minutes. That sounds good. All
Everyone
right.
should be open now.
Yep.
If anyone still needs to be put into a room, just drop it into the chat box, and I have all the numbers of the chat room that you'd like to join. Or if you don't want to do that, just shout out them. Just tell me what you want to join, and I'll take care of that way.
Thank you, Edward.
Okay, I got you, Emlyn.
Edward, could you drop me in number 2, please?
Jasmine, okay, yep, I will do that.
And I'm going to number 1, Edward.
Could you repeat that with your name? Your name not popping up for me.
Oh, I'm okay.
Lena?
Yeah.
What number did you want again? Sorry. Oh. What room did you want to join into, Lena?
Number 1.
1. Okay. Great. Thank you. I think I've already put you in a really cool. Perfect.
We need some theme music. Oh, I think it's my turn anyways. Welcome back, everybody. Yay. All right, so now is the time for sharing and to hear back from each of the groups. Yeah, why don't we start with group number 1? And if there's someone from group 1 who can just share a little bit briefly about what you guys discussed, any updates, and then we'll popcorn to group 2 and so forth. If you guys didn't assign someone, I'll just scroll through and find someone who has a number 1 next to their name and call on you. So.
Oh, I was muted. This is Troy from Dig Deep Farms. I was already talking. I know I was muted. In group number 1, the farmers group, we started out with updates. So we talked about Trevor been in contact with a lot of folks. Farmers have a lot of, one of the concerns is, land access, especially in these urban areas. And so been in contact with several faith-based organizations that have land, and like a lot of farmers and people get into farmers, and the housing situation, know that across the nation, faith-based organizations own a lot of real estate, you know, like even not considering the building is usually large parking lots and landscapes. And so we're trying to figure out how to, you know, serve each other, the faith-based community, you know, being more of an asset, and then the community being an asset to them by helping them tend the land and getting produce to their parishioners and the surrounding community. Rob provided access or link to some of the UC videos on pertaining to around this urban farming and agriculture. We had some new folks in the group, and then we went to our main topic of was our next big collaboration, and we brought up some questions of we got stuck on it. We didn't go too far, but our first one was, can we collaborate to build a direct-to-consumer list? And so when we get new farmers coming in, and maybe they only have a small plot, they could sell directly to community members within their direct community, or once we get the circular food economy going all the way throughout Alameda County. And it was some questions and concerns coming up of, was that veering from the ideal of, you know, eventually being able to supply big anchor institutions and things like that. So we're working out those type of things. How do we collaborate, putting new farmers together with direct to consumers, and how do we get faith-based organizations or other people with land access to farmers who want to farm that land and produce healthy food off that land? And what would that look like if it's free, leased, or a buying situation? And that's pretty much how far we got this week. And we're going to start trying to work on creating some documentation that's plugged directly into this circular food economy, to like where we don't forget these connections and stuff like that, and make it easier to get these people assets, these human assets, to the other resources.
That's great. Thanks so much, Troy. All right, now we'll go to group number 2.
Okay, awesome. Hey y'all, my name's Tasmin. Can y'all hear me? Okay, cool. Cause you like it's lagging, so I was like, okay, if you can't hear me, I'll turn off my computer. So we are the entrepreneurship group number 2. We did talk a lot about kind of, it was cool like what Troy was talking about, because we were also kind of talking about closing that gap and like connecting parts of the circular food economy between agriculture and entrepreneurship, and you know, with developments happening at DVDF, how we can connect our local food entrepreneurs to DDF in a way that, you know, will complete like the cycle of the circular food economy in the community. You know, really supporting the sustainability, like the sustainability and the different practices that DDF does, while also supporting the local food businesses in the area. Also educating like the community about different types of farming and different types of nutritious food through the vendors, and really tapping into the different resources that we have, like All In, and how the businesses play a huge role in that, like a larger role than they think, you know. But also we have a couple action items like me to connect the large notes on the document, but that's like a pretty good synopsis of what we went over.
Thanks, Tasmin. It's great. All right, group 3, we're rocking and rolling.
Hey everyone, Katie from Just Feral. We didn't appoint someone, so since I facilitated, I'll appoint myself. So we're the distribution group, which for anyone who doesn't know, comprises everything from kind of central distribution sites to individual delivery to kind of corner stores, and just trying to cover the waterfront between the people who make the food and the community who's looking for the food, and whether that's meals or produce. or other things. So we focus a bunch on, we had a bunch of new members in our group, or new to the group this week anyway, or this month anyway. So we focus a bunch on kind of what the horizon looks like for everyone this year. A lot of the folks who interact in the distribution space, you know, have experienced an influx of funding over the past year, and everyone's saying like, okay, what's next? How much longer are we month to month? Like, where does the funding come from 6 months from now? And if we've uncovered need, or at least the need is more visible than it was before, how are we going to continue to meet that, you know, as the pandemic changes shape and size, and so does the money that comes with it. So we talked a bunch about funding. We talked about the issue of workforce in distribution, particularly like delivery folks, but if you all follow kind of food service and restaurant industry, there's a big workforce shortage in general right now, despite the hourly rates being kind of higher than most traditional food industry jobs. That doesn't necessarily mean they're still always good, but they are, you know, companies are willing to pay more than they were before, and they're still having trouble finding delivery drivers to kind of, again, provide this critical last mile linkage. And related to that, our members are able to make some connections on kind of staffing programs and staffing sources for each other. So that was really great. And then last two things I'll talk about, we talked about downstream health impacts of kind of food and nutrition, you know, and we had a person in our group from a healthcare system who just sort of said, like, it's really obvious to me that the value of this work, you know, from that perspective, it's definitely clear, but it's sometimes hard to make it happen upstream. And then last but not least, we had a really nice close to our discussion about a model from Meals on Wheels, which many of you may know about, which I didn't, which is that they, as part of their funding, they ask for recipients of their meals for a donation each month. And forgive me if I'm not getting this exactly right, but a donation each month that's completely optional. But we talked about sort of the interesting value of that transaction in the kind of the dignity of meal and food exchanges, and finding ways to sort of transcend the charity model in food distribution specifically. So that gave us a lot to think about. It was a really nice way to end the session.
That's fabulous. Thanks so much.
Sure.
It's so wonderful to hear from everyone. All right, how about group 4?
I could share for group 4. So group 4 is food recovery. And today we followed up on our last discussion last month. Last month we talked about exploring a tool called Kumu to do some actual physical mapping. There's a platform online that you can populate with data, and it organizes the data either using geotags on an actual online map, or you can actually map out connections, so kind of like a community mapping tool. And so we're collecting some more data from the folks in our groups since then, and then updated that map and presented it again this time to try to get a better sense of what it is that we might use the map for. And it seemed to have great reception. It definitely is something that we'll continue to work on to populate. And there's just so much that we could do with it. The difficult thing is really, how do you pare down all the things that we'd like for it to do? So for example, one of the things that could be mapped is all the food recovery organizations that are operating in Alameda County, and who they're picking up donations from, and then who they're dropping off donations to. And then we also talked about, talking through how could we make the map useful for other groups. For example, like this distribution group, or even the farmers or the produce group, maybe connecting even like urban farms. And, theoretically, like an urban farm might be able to look at this map and say, oh, I have all this surplus, where can I bring it to, and look on a map to see who's close by and who's open at the date and time that they need to, and then know who to contact, because all that information is in there. So it's still exploratory at this stage. We're still just kind of figuring out what we would need, what our needs are for this map, but it's exciting.
Thank you. Group 5?
you want to talk about group 5?
Sure. Gosh, some things off the top of my head from the policy group are that we talked about the need for a rapid response network of some sort. So a couple of people are going to be chatting about that. And then also we were thinking about that we really need to kind of like do more research or like learn more from the other groups about what the policy needs are. We know that like food access is a great need for policies in that realm. But yeah, we kind of need to do more research. And I'm wondering if anyone else from the group can help me think of if there's anything else we touched on.
Jerry, I think there were a little bit of policy, starting to build a list of what are the relevant policies that are making their way through the state legislature that would help facilitate the work. And I think you had a couple quick updates on those.
I'm sorry, maybe I missed the question. You want me to talk about what we talked about in terms of the bills? Is that what you're asking?
You have, yeah, sorry. Did you have a quick update on any of the bills that were related to the food policy work?
Anything actionable, I think you mean. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, like I said in our group, you know, the bills that we're looking at or prioritizing around the work we're doing are in different areas, you know, different, like some are, you know, they're in one appropriations, or they're in one committee, you know, being reviewed a second and third time. And so I was just saying at some point we need to decide when it's in a certain like state, like I think suspense is one, that's the time for us to reach out and give our public comments or rapid response, or you know, reach out to the author of the bill and kind of say, hey, we need this push forward, or this is how it's impacting our county and so forth. So I just think we wanted to decide how we can track these bills and efforts so that when we know it's time to have a rapid response, what does that look like for our group? So I hope that was what you were
Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right, is there a group 6?
I will go. I'll make it short and sweet. It's 5:02. We had just a couple of us in there today, but it was a great discussion just about well, the challenges with figuring out basically the revenue model that supports real workforce, or you know, economically viable workforce, and that naturally points us right back to policy, because policies have to change in you know, federal, state, and local levels in order to actually support the revenue needed for real jobs that pay well. So we talked about all of those, and I promised that I would, you know, make even more time to chat with Mary Ruth than I already do, to make sure that we are on target with pushing on all of those fronts. But there's definitely a lot to do there on so many levels. We also talked about from our last conversation that, you know, there's an interest in better understanding the role of unions and connecting the sort of full pathway from education and certification in all of the different parts of the food system to, you know, what is that long-term endpoint and what is the role of unions in that. So one of our communal fabulous interns did some research around the local unions in the area and has a list here, but we also have more questions. Like, I don't even know exactly what the role of these unions are. We have a lot to figure out, and what are their labor standards. So there's a lot more research and understanding to do there, but the end of the most important part of our conversation that points back to policy is that on all fronts, we need to better understand how the money flows down from any system or any corporation and institution, because that's where we have to go all the way up to figure out how to articulate an ROI for why invest differently in this system. So anyway, that's where we left off. It was a great conversation.
That's great. Thanks so much. Thank you to everyone who shared back. I know it can be daunting sometimes to like share in front of a lot of people, but you're doing great, everybody. Yeah, and I don't know who's next. Is it Patty?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So, thanks everybody. So, I'm supposed to do provide the updates and everything going on within the community. So, I'm going to start off with Hilary Bass, and she's going to give us an update on Ardenwood.
So, speaking of policy shifts, this is a really big deal that the East Bay Regional Park District has made their decision to allow Dig Deep Farms to be their lessee for Ardenwood in Fremont, which is somewhere between 54 and 90 acres of amazing, beautiful flat land in Patty's neighborhood. So where all of our staff are going to have their breaks at his house. Troy, I don't know if I told you that. But it's very exciting because it's an opportunity to further develop this model, invest in the workforce of regenerative agriculture and pathways for people to become involved in that world, and have further developed the back end of that, where this produce is deemed medicine or medicinal and able to be procured by the healthcare side of the house. So that's important for our friend Kimberly on the call with Fremont Hospital, also right in your neighborhood there. And similarly with workforce development, being able to bring new farmers into that world and potentially become their own farming enterprise as part of a collective that fills the, supports the supply for the demand that through food as medicine, as well as through institutional contracts that we're trying to, convince folks to make happen. So that's very, very big news.
Congratulations, Hilary. Great job. The other thing, Dave Brown, would you like to talk a little bit about the Food Hub tours? Dave, if you're around. If not, Hilary, would you like to sub for Dave? Yeah.
I'm in the car. Just dropped my daughter off at a educational activity, but we've been, and we meaning Hillary and myself and Jenna from the Food Hub for DSAL, and Mary Ruth and staff from Supervisor Halbert's office have been kind of circling around the Alameda County region, looking at possible food hubs. We have talked to Tri-City Volunteers. We've talked to Berkeley Food Network. We are looking at Alameda tomorrow. We've been out in Livermore looking at a possible site. I mean, basically what we're trying to do is put them in the major food hub in the regions of the county. So East County, South County, Central already has the DSAL food hub, Oakland and North County. So, and then have some smaller satellite food hubs. I mean, the larger food hubs would include large cold storage. It would include one or more commercial kitchens. So we are in the process of doing this because to really support the food recovery work that we have planned, we're going to need places for the food to go and the food to be cooked. And we want to help out food entrepreneurs. And, this brings, produce from our farms. Now that we have, over 70 acres of farmland, we got to have a place where it's going to go. So we're building the infrastructure so we can support all the nonprofits that are doing this work.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. Carmela Chase, I don't know if Carmela's around. I don't think I've seen her. But anyway, I wanted to provide an update. If you'll know people from the city of Fremont who are having issues paying their, actually, tenants in Fremont having issues paying their rent and everything. City of Fremont has a rental assistance program to help them with their rent. I'm going to put the link in the chat. So please follow that link, and actually please share that link with the people you might know from the city of Fremont who are having issues paying rent. That'll help them out. The other thing is for next meetings, if you have any further updates, or if you'll want to have any information or any relevant information included in the newsletter, please let Mary Ruth know her email. I'm sure all of you have her email, and that'll be great. And with that, back to you, Mary Ruth. Thank you so much.
Sure. And I'll just take this opportunity to say, open the floor. If there's anybody else who wants to give an announcement, share anything, and or like Patty said, you can email me if you want to include something in the newsletter.
I just want to share really quick, just from Stop Waste Spend. We're hosting a virtual film screening next week of a short film that was produced in partnership with Bay Area Green Tours, and it actually features a number of organizations that have been participating in this All in Eats working group, including Common Vision, Essential Food and Medicine, and Berkeley Food Network. It's a premiere of a short film called Food as Medicine, Community, Healing, and Resilience, produced by Bay Area Green Tours. So I'll paste the event information into the chat so that if anyone wants to attend, we'd be happy to have you. It's virtual and it's free.
And Elisa, will that be something that'll be viewable after the official date?
That's a good question. I think we are recording it, so
okay.
I hope so.
Okay.
But I can follow up.
Okay, great. All right, looks like Food Shift is hiring. Jen, do you want to say anything about that? Nope, that's fine. Okay, there's some stuff in the chat on that. Anything else? Okay, then hearing none, I will pass it over to Sarah to wrap us up.
All right. I will share my favorite Zoom tip, which is those 3 little dots over near the edge of your chat window. You can save the chat. I just did that because there's so many great links today. You all probably knew that. It was fairly new information to me, and I thought I'd just talk about a cool trick just because I have the mic, so the virtual mic. Anyway, just really wanted to reflect the enthusiasm, the passion, the commitment that we heard from you all during the report outs. There is great work underway, and just deeply appreciate all of you and all of that work. And so until we meet next month, let's keep talking to each other. Let's keep collaborating. Let's figure out how do we move forward together to make sure that we have a well-fed, sustainable, healthy Alameda County. Anything else for the good of the order? All right. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Have a very good evening, everybody. Take care now. Be safe. Bye now.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.